Okay, rulers, settle down. Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to get singles for all your Force of Will and other trading card games, as well as these amazing patrons. Special thanks to guest lecturer member Vite Ramen. Thank you for your support. Class is in session. Hey there, rulers! Welcome back after a long week of Force of Will to the office hours, where we're here to answer any questions you might have and also just talk about some stuff that's going on in the community and in our own world. We're glad to have you here post pre-release weekend and getting into release week for Rebirth of Legend and Assault into the Demonic World. Before we get started, just want to walk through a little bit of housekeeping. If you like what we're doing, you want to consider supporting the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button and interact with the video in some way. It feeds the almighty YouTube algorithm and helps get us in front of more people. And Paul just clicked a button apparently by touching his computer screen, and that's crazy. And then
4 hours to live.
Ooh, that's unfortunate.
I know.
And also, again, if you want to consider supporting us financially, you consider clicking that join button and becoming a member here on the channel. It is essentially a Twitch subscription. Goes to access all kinds of things like the wonderful emotes, as well as exclusive perks like submitting your deck lists for deck doctoring or getting matches with us to record on the channel, all kinds of stuff. And right now, we're 7 members away from hitting that new mini Violet emote. And also, at 100 members, Paul, we're going to do a little raffle. We're going to announce how to do the raffle once we hit 100 members for this little number. Paul, you want to show up to him?
My deck has no pathetic cards.
It's the Neat card! This is an exclusive project that is a wonderful little exclusive Ruler School kind of memorabilia piece. It is something to say when your opponent does something neat, and essentially says proceed immediately to scoop and scoop the game, as a nice way to concede the game to your opponent in true, respectable, neat fashion, thanks to Kiki. There are 6 of them being printed total in existence. 5 of them are for people who have been involved in the project, and the last one will be raffled off in some way to the community once we hit 100 members. So, if you want a chance, you want us to hit that Kiki giveaway, join the channel. Kiki. So at that point in time, let me introduce my co-hosts. We've got Mike Rance.
Hello, friends.
And Paul Reisman.
Neat.
Cheers.
And cheers. Tonight is all about content. We're going to talk about this idea of content creation. I have been seeing more and more people in the community considering the idea of starting making content. All 3 of us here have made content in our own various ways, in different mediums, and have backgrounds in a lot of different ways, have extended histories with that. So I thought we'd share some of our tips, tricks, maybe suggestions of kind of how to approach making content for a card game, as well as answering any questions you guys have and talking about some of our favorite content projects. I was also inspired to do this heavily because of the Magic the Gathering to Force of Will video that should be out later this week that I've been working on, but also just in general to talk with you guys about it. So obviously, Demo73 here. We've been making I've been making content for Force of Will for 6 years. Before that, I dabbled a little bit in the attempt of doing Yu-Gi-Oh and Kaijudo content before Kaijudo died, and then quickly just couldn't break into the world of Yu-Gi-Oh content, but we found our home here in Force of Will, and then later on down the line I pulled Paul in and taking him out to dinner at 200 members. Yeah, I strangled Paul into finally playing Force of Will with me at a more full-time basis. And Mike, Deepwood was founded initially when?
Oh, God, like 2015, 2016, while I was still in college.
Hooray!
Just kind of threw it together when I switched over from Yu-Gi-Oh! To Force of Will, brought Joey on. We just kind of started making deck lists. Like, some of our first videos are just like green Vlad and blue Blazer decks. Just like no-brain monocolor deck. And we just kind of evolved from there into something bigger, which is nice.
Have we ever seen a Force of Will to Magic the Gathering conversion? Someone go from Force of Will to Magic? I think that's what you're saying,
Probably.
Gray. I'm sure there's probably people who have. I personally haven't talked to anyone who like started in Force of Will and then went to Magic.
I
Like
feel like
they've
there
never.
has to be like some weebs that are like, oh, this is anime. This is anime. I like these mechanics. Oh, this mechanic is similar.
Yeah, maybe.
Kind of a gateway, I guess.
And then Paul, in terms of your experience, not so much necessarily on the video content side, but like, can you talk a little bit about how you've kind of approached content creation?
Oh, well, yeah. I feel like that's the whole podcast. So I'll just play off of you three. But I started actually
All
doing
three of us.
some all three of us. Jeremy, his Dark Ego, and Mike Grant, the Claw, Kiki. Where I don't know, where the third of one of us is the Ghost.
The gloves.
The glove.
I actually
Glove
started
one,
doing a
glove
lot of
two.
content. I also started off in Yu-Gi-Oh content a little bit, and that didn't really take off for me. It didn't really feel good. I didn't really want to keep doing it, and then I started getting into Kaijudo content, and I did a lot of Kaijudo content. Actually, it's still on YouTube, and I'm thinking about reforming that channel as just like a little bit of a project for the love on that game. Now that I have a little bit more expertise under my belt. But the bulk of my time has been spent on Force of Will content with the Rule School channel here. And I host a couple of different kinds of things on this channel. We do the tournament report, obviously, which has a different style than the yearbook, which is relatively new. And then, of course, I do the podcast and I do the weekly Wednesday stuff with Jeremy. So I'm fairly diverse on this channel. And it takes a different skill set, uses a lot of writing skills and stuff like that I have. So, hey Jeremy, where are we going?
So I mean, my next question here is to kind of, I mean, I'll share my points here. Is what drove you to content? I know Paul's answer is pretty much Jeremy forced him to do it.
No,
But not.
thank you.
Yeah. But like, what drove you to? Or what attracted you to the idea of making content in the sense of like how it's maybe enhanced your experience in Force of Will? Because I think that there are certainly people who make content to make content. But I also think that there's a lot to be gained in terms of your enjoyment of a game can be increased when you enter the realm of content creation. But like, you have to think about that. You can't just go like, oh, I'm going to make videos. Because otherwise sometimes I think that can kind of do the opposite of like burn you out in terms of the game enjoyment. We've seen that in several Force of Will YouTubers throughout history where it was very clear that making content was not enhancing their experience of the game, and in fact was draining them, and then they left both the world of content creation and the world of Force of Will. So I'd be interested to hear your guys' thoughts about what attracted you to making content, what you get out of it, and like how it enhances your experience.
Yeah, it's actually really good. I could have like a long-winded story if you guys don't mind listening to me just talk for a bit.
Yeah, dude, go for it.
50 minutes. Go.
We got time.
Sick. So obviously you guys know me from Deepwood content creation. Before that, I was on a Yu-Gi-Oh team channel called Team Chaos New York, because there was already a Team Chaos somewhere else in the US, because of course it was, because Yu-Gi-Oh. So
Makes sense.
I on making content for that channel, and I was actually a lot of my personal interest in making videos came from one of my deck profiles being the most viewed video on our channel and one of the most viewed relinquished chaos decks in history, which was very nice and gave me a little bit of some garbage. But a lot of my love of content creation actually stems from my background as a musician, my background as somebody who did theater growing up, and as somebody who aspired to be a teacher for the longest time before getting, blunt force trauma into the face and going into marketing because, oops, New York rent. But the big thing is that when I started doing any kind of content creation, I approached it with kind of the same overall scope that I had when I was doing theater, when I was doing performance, like music performance and anything of that nature, because you do performance obviously to like sell yourself to an audience. There's a little bit of marketing involved in any kind of performance whatsoever. But at the same time, it's also very self-serving. It's like you want to express yourself in a way that you can just kind of allow people to enjoy what you're enjoying, and hopefully your emotions from that bounce off to other people. And that's where all my love of content creation comes from. I enjoy just making things that other people might like, and even if they don't like it, at the end of the day, it's self-serving to me. I'm a selfish person. I love being in front of the camera and having an audience. And I don't know, it's just very fun to me. Doing podcasts has been a thing that I didn't realize that I was going to like as much as I do, and here I am every Monday.
There have been times.
There
have been times when we haven't had the podcast, and Mike's like messaged me being like, "Boo," because like I'm taking a break, and he's like, "Boo."
Yeah. Man, but I think a lot of that. So a little bit of extra like tiny history.
Sure.
When the ARG Pro team was being formed, that was actually when I stopped doing content for Deepwood, because all the content I was doing under contract had to go to ARG because we were sponsored by them. And obviously that wasn't a bad time, honestly. I had a really good time with that. Like at the peak of that team, Colin and I were pumping out some of the memeiest garbage, and it was great. And we had a really good time with that. And then when that team dissolved after a whole bunch of stuff came down, it was just like, all right, cool, whatever. I'll take some time back. I, worked on myself a little bit. Had a brief stint where I was, semi-retired from the Forceful competitive scene for a bit, just to kind of collect myself, coming out of a bad relationship, switching jobs. There was a lot of stuff going on. And then when I told, actually the reason that I got hired at my current job is because I told my bosses about my content creation and my Force of Will YouTube channel. They asked me about it, and my boss said, "Do you do metagame analysis?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we do metagame analysis on this." He's like, "All right, cool. You're hired. We need somebody who can analyze things." And I'm like, so not only is it self-serving in the fact that it, just kind of helped me to just kind of put myself on a platform and just kind of enjoy the game in a way that I couldn't enjoy it from just playing it, but also at the same time, it got me a job. So
yeah,
there's not a lot of people that can say that, honestly.
It's true.
Who else can say they got a job from Forceful other than like Jeff? But
yeah, I can't.
Yeah, I know.
I almost got a job from Forceful, but story for another day.
Story for another day. No, I don't know, but it's just like when I started, like my boss told me, you should definitely get back into content creation if it was something that you enjoyed after my hiatus. And I'm like, you're right. What am I doing not making content for this game I enjoy? And I did. And it just got me that much back into the game. It got me to think more. It got me to, it wasn't as draining as it was before because I was able to just kind of take it at my own pace. And I threw out meme videos. We had the one where it's like, what's the ruler's alcohol tolerance tier list? Yeah. Which is still one of my favorite videos I've ever gotten to put together.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
Oh, it was so weird. It was so much fun. I want to do more really terrible ones. Paul, I feel like you and I are going to do some really nice tier lists. Like how much shrimp could they eat before they throw up?
Moving on from that topic, yes. Paul, what about you? So obviously, I kind of essentially hired you, but in a sense, beyond me kind of offering you the job, like what has driven you to like making content and approaches it? I mean, like the yearbook was 100% your idea. So like what drives you in that?
I think honestly, all of my content creation is just to give back to the community as much as I want it to be. I don't make things that I don't like, right? It's got to be a good use of my time, and it's got to be worth my energy. And so when I sit down and I think about, I'm playing this card game with my best friend, like I have for the last like several years, but I actually like genuinely like the game, and the community is pretty great too. It's progressively gotten better as time goes on, and it's something I like to engage with. And so I'm like, I want more and more people to be a part of this game. And so when Jeremy like finally approached me and said, like, I want to bring you on and I want to play this game with you, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna need help to like actually play the game. And And he said, I can write you a paycheck if you want. And I said, just to make it easier, why don't you just help me fill out my collection? And
Pay him in cardboard. Hey!
yeah, they
Cardboard crack,
don't
baby, let's
tax
go.
cardboard. They don't tax cardboard, believe it or not. Except that time that they took all of my rulers once, and I had to like sue the government to get it back. But that's another story.
That's another story.
The IRS actually stands for the
It's
Internal
also a false
Ruler.
story.
Yeah.
The IRS actually stands for the Internal Ruler Service.
Yeah.
See, think, folks.
Thanks,
Just think. Get cardboard instead of money. You can't tax cardboard. So when I sat down and I said, okay, well, like if I were a new player and I'm coming into this game, or if I've been here for a while, what's the kind of stuff that I want to see in the Forcible community? And that's kind of how I came up with the yearbook, because I'm like, wait a minute, okay, we just do New Frontiers like all the time, and everyone's always saying they want like Wanderer Eternal content, right? And I'm like, well, why don't we just do that? Because like we can do that, right? Why can't I, right? And so now I just have this running thing where I make the yearbook every once in a while. And Cardboard Cowboy, nice, I like it.
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw. Yeehaw. And that's just the kind of content I want to see in the community. And I have a platform already, but like if I didn't and I wanted to have my own Forcible channel, I would have done it there. But I like working with my best friend, so I'm going to do it on his channel instead.
Yeah,
That's
I think that's the thing that, that I want to have be the kind of the takeaway message from this is that like Force of Will, more so than I think other card games, is a very fertile space for content. In the sense of like people just want it, like people just want content. And yes, we at Ruler School try to be kind of all encompassing, but at the same time, I'm like 100% down to support new content creators getting onto the scene. Because I think that there are perspectives that we can't always see, or a type of content that is just not feasible for us to do consistently, or an avenue that we can't really hit. And it really only goes to benefit the community as a whole. And so I encourage people to do that. And I'm going to talk about kind of my ideas of things that I would recommend if you're wanting to get into content, as to like things to know. And you will note that none of them have anything to do with equipment, because equipment means jack when you're making content. If you
Says Jeremy, as he has the nice equipment. And
says Jeremy, who started with absolute trash in terms of equipment on the channel. Like
it's like your dad's camera, right?
It was my dad's camera on a borrowed tripod that was absolute jank, and a terrible free editing program with no bonus lighting or any kind of modification.
Yeah, go back and look at those early videos. There's definitely a quality difference.
There's no behind the scenes commentary. There's no on screen editing. Like, just go watch it. It's an iPhone on a table with us tapping for life totals and yelling at each other across the screen. It's great. But I think
that is pure raw energy right there.
Pure raw energy.
And not
to answer my own
unplugged.
to answer my own question about like what got me into content, it's very similar vein to Mike, in that I got into making content for an absolutely selfish reason. Coming from Magic, or not coming from Magic, coming from Yu-Gi-Oh! And then into Kaijudo, there was a part of me that as a person is, I am driven to be known, right? I like that idea of being known. And coming from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community and a little bit of time with Kaijudo, not so much, but like there was always this drive where I felt like there were two ways to be known. Be an insanely good competitive player, or be the content producer that everyone looks at. And coming from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Realm, that's especially true. Like if you want to be known in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community, those are the two really good avenues to do it. And so in coming into Force of Will, I said, the game's new, the content creation realm is fresh. This is a great way for me to hit my start. And so like the initial motivation, insanely selfish. Like I wanted to be known. And I think that the community itself has humbled me and changed that, where I think I do enjoy the connections that I have with people, and like that is very satisfying, but like it doesn't feel forced and it doesn't feel like disingenuine. Like it's just actual connections with people. And I don't think it comes from the fact that I have made all this content that I have those connections. And so that changed it to being like, I just like making content. Like it makes me think about the game and turns the game from just a card game into like more of a hobby, and also like building my skills in a much different way rather than just shuffling cardboard. Like I feel like I've learned a lot in making content that I've applied to other things in my life. And it's just yeah, fame hounds a little bit. But it's also, you know, it's been really, really nice and rewarding to see the connections with people, and also kind of self-affirming of like, hey, there's more ways to be known than just this, and you're in a community that like wants to connect with you in a way outside of just this, right? I'll speak to the fact that I have had the conversation a couple of times with Ryan Miles and Brandon Bremont where I was legitimately like, are we actually friends, or are we just talking because like of the fact that I make content? And it's like, no, we're actually friends, and it really doesn't have anything to do with the fact that you make content. And like, to me, that community, like Force of Will, allows you to explore content while also making connections regardless of content. Does that make sense? So feels like a weird sentence, but
it is, but I know what you're saying.
But because of that, it provides so much freedom in making content that you can truly just make whatever you want. Like you can
Sure.
make content that you enjoy, and you don't have to worry about it being a super huge like meme, you know, project, or you don't have to worry about, you know, talking about older formats, or you can just make content and enjoy it. And I think, to me, the reason why making content is so much more fun is because it just enhances and builds on the entire experience of the cards. Like, it's not just playing the game anymore. It's thinking about that project, feeling really satisfied when it's completed, watching the comments come in, talking with people about what you've made, talking to people about ideas that they've had. It flushes out the experience of the game in a way that I think is truly satisfying and really encouraging to be a part of. So if that's something you're after, try making content.
You can do it with literally nothing.
You absolutely can.
So some of the maybe like some of the things that prevented me from personally like wanting to make content in the past, especially when it came down to Yu-Gi-Oh, it's like you have to be a specific kind of person. Right? So like when I was thinking about making more Yu-Gi-Oh content, I always saw that community as like, you have to be really edgy, you have to be willing to curse on camera, you have to treat the game differently than what it portrays itself as, and you have to do all these things that I didn't feel comfortable doing, and I wasn't sure if I would be able to break into the market with that. And so I said, I don't really want to do that. I also don't know if I have the equipment. Like, I could make things on Movie Maker or make things on iMovie or whatever to actually produce this stuff.
Well, I will say, I like the fact that you bring up Movie Maker, because the last Deepwood video, I normally put more effort into things, but this month's been so stressful and busy for me. That last video was put together in PowerPoint and Movie Maker.
Yeah. If you have PowerPoint or Keynote and a way to screenshot, you can make a video.
I'm a control Bruce, I'm a control player. I'm a control player and a tempo player. Like, that's it.
Mid-range, baby!
That's
Let's
me.
go!
Tempo and control. Don't hand me a burn deck.
What he means is he plays black.
A lot.
Correct.
He plays
Black and green. Those are my two favorite colors.
So this game is for you. Actually.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
game
honestly.
Those are the two best colors.
is this game is 100% for me.
Oh, I remember the conversation a long time ago in a Wanderer format where we were like, what if we just banned Black Silence? Does that make the format any like more balanced? And the answer was almost yes.
Almost.
You get the countdown stone. That's what you get.
Yeah, terrible.
Oh my gosh. So it was like all of that. I had to be someone I didn't want to be, and then I was like always worried about like, oh, do I not have enough, or is my content going to be varied enough? And quite honestly, just make stuff.
Yep.
Like, do not. I would just say just make stuff. Like, don't even worry if it's like, oh, Ruler School's already done that, or Deepwood's already done that, or Geektopia's already done that, or like just make your stuff. Like,
Yeah.
it's all
Copy your
automatically
video,
gonna be
dude.
different.
I'm not making the videos again. Copy them.
And make like and don't be afraid to like try different platforms. I mean,
Yeah.
shout outs to Josh Mostart, the bardiest bard on TikTok. We have started to do a little bit of Ruler School
Bardy.
TikTok, 100% inspired by the fact that Josh was doing it, and like that's fun. Like that's a type of content we can't do consistent. Like it's difficult to do on YouTube. Like the formatting is. I mean, we can do the shorts, but it's not the same. And like I swear, in this past like 3 weeks of doing TikToks, we've had like 28 people like message or comment being like, "We're from the Magic community. What is this game? Like this seems great." Like blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, why did I not do this sooner? It's just kind of like, just pull the trigger. And it's literally just me spending a minute talking about spoilers. Zero editing other than like putting a picture on the screen. Like content is not as intimidating as it seems, to go back to Paul's point, in terms of like, we're not a game that takes itself so seriously or is so explosive in terms of size that content has to have this like upper echelon level of like quality and commitment to it. I think that Yu-Gi-Oh self-imposed that. Magic hasn't imposed that on itself. The problem is there's so much of it that in order to get any kind of traction, you have to have that upper echelon. And so it like naturally filters itself out. Yu-Gi-Oh is very much a self-imposed filtering out. But Force Will is just kind of like, hey man, you make content? Dope. Awesome.
Also, very important fact, do not be afraid to copy semi-copy formatting from YouTubers in other games. Like that's
Absolutely.
a huge thing that I've been doing lately. That that custom card review thing, I haven't played Hearthstone in 2 years, but I still religiously follow those custom card reviews because I love custom cards with all my heart. And the fact that I can kind of like leverage that with the community and give that back to the community and take community-made cards and just kind of like splice it all together. I can't even tell you how many videos I've made that are just kind of jacked from other people. Like the tier list videos. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody does those.
The yearbook is definitely a copy of another like series on YouTube. It's definitely a copy. I'm tweaking it as I go on. It's not going to be that anymore. Like as time goes on, it's just not going to be that thing. But it's definitely inspired by something else. Like it didn't just come to my brain.
Yeah, but like that's the beauty of content creation, is that you can be inspired by the things that other people make and you can build on it, right? It's that idea of like the world's biggest ball of paint. Like you're not the first person to come to the ball to paint a layer, but your layer is truly unique. And content creation is the same way. Like you can come to an idea or a concept for a type of video that from other people have done before you, but you're always going to bring something unique to the table. And so you shouldn't be afraid to try it. Because someone is going to paint on top of what you've made and make something different. And it's just this cascading chain. And the other thing too is like, the more, because of getting even into the data, the nitty gritty of it, right? The more that the YouTube algorithm sees different, unique Force of Will content being created, it does kind of start to pay attention to that. Not necessarily saying that we're suddenly going to break into trending or whatever, but like you in your own way are playing your own part of getting the game noticed. and I think it's important to do that, and it's a helpful thing to do that, but also it's just a fun experiment to do. And so that kind of not gonna lie, I kind of want to make a video in the Tellurian style of Tellurian. Is it worth to buy X videos? But with Forza Will, 99.9 times out of 10, the answer would be yes. Yes, that's correct. You just start. It's like it's like a 15-second video. It's like, this new product's coming out. Is it worth to buy? Yes. End of video. Next one. Like, just use the same clip of you saying yes every single video. Yes. And then move on.
But you have to extend the video out to 10 minutes, and the rest is just silence, so that it looks like it's a real, like, legit 10-minute long video.
Yeah. So I think, I have having done content for a while, we've kind of hit on a few of them. I think that there are some things to pass on to people who maybe are interested. First off, I think is make content that I think it's important to make content that you would watch. And let that be the only defining factor as to whether or not that's a piece of content you make. In the sense that, like, don't let whether other people watch it or whether other people are asking for it define whether or not you make a project. I think you get an idea for a video and you say, if someone else made that video, would it be something I would watch? And then if it is, make it. Like, that needs to be the only kind of, I think that's the only kind of factor in deciding whether or not you make a video. Because ultimately that's it. That literally is it. Because if that's going to be your driving factor into whether or not you even enjoy working on it, because you're going to get done with it and you're going to go, yeah, I enjoyed watching that. Even if no one else sees it, you're going to have enjoyed working on it and watching it when it's done. Another
that being said,
go ahead.
Like, if you can't meet your crazy high expectations for what you would watch, one, I guess lower your expectations, but two, it doesn't have to be like an instant, like, I have to do production, like I have to get like the lighting and the green screen. Like, again, you do not have to do all of that. You have to like say that, like, you have to say things and do things and entertain yourself in such a way that you would actually watch the thing.
Yeah. When I say if you would watch it, I'm more referring to the content, the focus of it, rather than the production value. Because production value comes later, with time.
Yeah, I feel like people get hung up on production value sometimes. At least I know I have in the past. Like, I can't do that because all I have is Movie Maker, right? So I'm just telling those people, yeah, just make your stuff, man. I mean, okay, Yu-Gi-Oh content creator for like 15 years, Mega Capital G, exclusively uses Windows Movie Maker, and he has like, what? How many 100,000 subscribers?
Too many 100,000. He's like, the thing is, he has such a good personality for it, and I think that, like, as long as you have a strong personality and a passion for the game, your content is going to come across with that. Like, you don't need this like massive crazy setup. You don't need like professional gear. Just like, I don't know, make things that feel like something that you would want to watch. I think, Paul, you said it before, right? It was just like, you don't make content that you wouldn't watch yourself. And same with me, honestly. I love watching things that make me think. I love watching things that involve the community, and I like watching things that make people want to, kind of go at it in the comments, because I love hearing different.
Get in the comments.
Get in the comment section, boys. Let's go.
And be good. Be good in the comments.
Yeah.
I think the thing that's really important about content is it helps me keep my head in the game.
Yes.
And the more of that there is, the more it helps me think about the game, which helps me like not get so rusty. So like it does actually function as something really practical for me. And if it's not forcible stuff, I just go and find other card game stuff now because I have to like keep my brain sharp for cards.
I fully agree with that, Paul. This whole month I've been like, my parents are moving, stress at the job, stress from other things, just like a lot of stuff going on where I haven't had the chance to think of Forceful. Putting together that little talk that I had with Scott about Rebirth of Legend made me start thinking again entirely about everything coming out, and I'm like, oh, now I gotta get in gear.
Yeah. Bruce, is control more mid-range for Force of Will? No, I think control is still very much control. It's just control decks get to that point where they have strong control earlier than it might feel in Magic because of stone control. Like, I've watched control decks in Magic feel like they have to struggle to stabilize because they're struggling to find their resources, and like that pacing for a control deck in Force of Will isn't there because of the stone consistency. So like the amount of time that a control deck has to try to stabilize is more consistently shorter, but it still feels like a control deck. Like the feeling of that control is still there. It's just the stabilizing time is shortened. Great question though. I love hearing those kinds of questions. Kind of like, well, Toby calling you out. Kind of like how Mike has still yet to release that second video for custom made cards. Oof.
Listen, man, I told you I'm very heavily inspired by Hearthstone creators. That one guy, Trump, who does Hearthstone videos, not the ex-president.
Yeah, no, we got it. Yep.
Just, he makes one of those and he's like, weekly card review, and then doesn't make one for half a year. So, I'm just taking inspiration from where it deserves to be taken from,
Yeah. The other thing that I think is important to talk about in terms of content creation is, and I think a lot of people mess this up, is look at the intent of producing content. And when I say that, I mean, like, are you wanting to be someone who just gets an idea and makes it? Or are you wanting to be like a content creator? Because I think that those are different. There's a difference between someone who makes content and a content creator, as much as that makes sense. Like, I would fashion Mike in the Deepwood as a group of people who make content. I love you, buddy, but I think we can both agree that that's kind of, in terms of how Deepwood approaches videos, it's more of people who make content as opposed to, in terms of what Ruler School does, which is content creation. Not that there's necessarily anything bad, but like Ruler School, we have dug in on this idea of content creation because we have a very tight schedule that we try to stick to as much as possible. We have like shows that we specifically try to produce and like put out, and like big projects that we try to stay consistent with, and that idea of like constantly churning, right? And I would think of Deepwood as a group of people who get an idea for a video and then they make it, and it's great and we love it, but we don't know when those videos are going to happen. They're just going to be surprises and blessings from the Deepwood crew. Paul's giving me some crazy looks, which is weird because Mike's totally agreeing with me. So I'm wanting to hear what Paul has to say about this.
I still think Mike is a content creator.
I think Mike is a content creator.
I think Mike and Deepwood Fowl are still content creators, but they do it at a different schedule and a different pace. So I don't want us to like give this I don't want to give the chat and the other viewers this idea that, oh, you have to, if you're a content creator, you're serious and you upload every single week.
Sure, yeah. That's a good differentiation. So I think you're still a content creator if you're not sticking to a schedule. So I guess I should say, like, how do I want to phrase this? Because I do think there is something to be defined, like some kind of distinction in terms of those two approaches. So maybe my wording is bad, but
why don't we let Mike say what the content creation is? Because if he agrees with you that he's not a content creator, I want to know what his differentiation is. He's over here for me.
Okay. So like I referred to the. Okay, that's a good point, Mike. Let's see how you would differentiate. I would consider that under my definitions, a content creator would fall very much in line with what Ruler School does in terms of that churning of consistency, versus a group of people who make content, which is more of what, in my eyes, what Deepwood does, which is still great content, but in terms of it's very driven by what you're interested in. It's not necessarily super consistent in terms of on a schedule. There's no particular like routine to it, but it's still like making good content and putting it out there. Those would be the way I see it. And then Paul has challenged me to ask you how you would kind of view that, or how you would kind of define that.
So here's my thoughts, actually. I think that there's a very distinct difference between the way that Ruler School approaches content creation versus how Deepwood or these other, smaller size, less structured channels do it. Ruler School is to broadcast what Deepwood is to journalism. And I think that's the best way that I can put that. Broadcast, you have that strict schedule. Well, not strict, but you have a schedule that you want to follow. You have a schedule that you want to continue pushing on, and you want people to be safe in their knowledge that there is going to be content for them to view at that strict schedule. Charlie, I love you with all my heart. Oh my goodness. In terms of journalism is defined as finding one topic and not necessarily putting out content on it constantly, but whenever something needs to be said, saying it.
Sure.
And I think that's a very big distinction between the two, because with broadcast, you can have one big broadcaster constantly putting out content, and it's enough to keep a community fairly sated. But with journalism, the more journalists you have, the more content is going to just kind of pile in as more and more topics are uncovered for them to write articles or write video articles about. And I think that's kind of my thought as to why we want more content creators in the community. I want to see more journalists in the community. I want to see a lot of journalists kind of coming by me and just kind of, obviously, like, I want them to come by you too, Jeremy. I want you to have as many guests on the channel as possible.
Sure.
Journalists deserve to have their thoughts broadcast on the biggest platform they can have for the game. Hey, it's me. I'm here. But no, I just think that it's a really good opportunity for players who don't necessarily have the time to stick to a schedule, don't have the resources for it, don't have, the drive that they need to just push.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm trying to get at is like when you're getting into content, I think it's important to figure out which of those two venues you want to be, because I think that if you try to get into it being one thing, but your approach to it is more of the other, it can lead to feeling confused or maybe dissatisfied with projects. And so I think when you get into it, I think it's more natural, especially when you're first getting started, to do something like Mike is talking about, where it's more journalistic. It's like talking about individual topics that hit your attention or specific ideas or deck profiles or whatever. And then as you get more practiced, it's easier to go more and more and more towards the broadcasting world. But again, I think that both types of those content are super important. But I've seen a lot of content creators try to do one or the other, but not necessarily really not really having the vibe of like what they really want it to be in their content, and burn out. Like that. We lost him just like that. He's burnt out.
I like that.
So I think, but I think that's important, because you need to have those conversations with yourself when you're first getting started, because it's going to define the way you approach content. It's going to define the way you view feedback on your content. It's going to divide, and your drive for content. So pay attention to your own kind of heart and about what you want to be talking about. Like, what do you want to bring to the table as the conversation about FOW? And then just do it. But have those conversations. Bruce Praska, that's a huge driving force for me, having a baseline idea to find and build from. I'm not saying that FOW is bad in that front, but it just seems lacking, and believe me, I'm not trying to cash hate. Are you talking about in terms of having deck ideas? Or are you talking about having the control decks? It's super hard to find, per se, consistent decks that fit the mold. If you're wanting to look at competitive deck lists, I definitely recommend checking out FOW Library, FOWlibrary.com. Top 8 lists from tournaments are there. We also have the tournament reports that we do here after GPs. It's been a bit of a dry spell for GPs because of pandemic, but we have another GP next month. Paul did a tournament report on this past GP, right, Paul? Did that get posted, or did we? Yeah. So we have that. I'm pretty sure it did. So
people said they needed more pie, so I'll give
you need more pie. It's definitely something we want to be able to help you with, especially as you're coming to the channel here. So let us know, give us some feedback on that. We'll try to point you in the right direction. If you have people consistently following your content, no matter how the scheduling, that's a content creator. Babatunde, bringing it home.
Yes,
do it up. So yeah, all of those are good points. And I think what it's very important for us to say here is you absolutely have our blessing and encouragement and support for wanting to make content. Like, feel no gatekeeping coming from us. In fact, quite the opposite. We are here
Unless
to...
you're playing gate ruler, and then you definitely gatekeeping because you're gate
Mike.
ruling.
Yeah, because you.
So you're telling me that I need to do
Oh
the
my
video
gosh.
of my dreams, analyzing the various fonts of Force of Will and making a top 5
Yes!
video of them? Yeah!
Tier list.
Let's
Why not?
do
Tier
it!
list.
Yeah,
I
man.
want to see a foul font tier
The
list.
foul font tier list? I'm down
I will
for it.
join
I'll
in
watch
that.
it. I'll watch
I
that for
love
sure.
useless tier list videos. It's what I live for.
Yeah, I'm up for that too, man.
Oh
for that
my
too.
gosh. Oh.
And if you
I
ever
also
have
love
any...
the name Fart of Shid.
Bard of shit.
It's a member on the channel. Welcome.
Like, what?
Yeah.
We should do a tier list of all of the different names we've seen for usernames on.
Oh my god.
Bard of shit.
Someone's
Fart of
calling-
Shid is definitely S tier.
Calling the police. Why?
because of the tier list about the fonts. So I think we have a little bit of time left. So I'd like to kind of talk about, as more questions come in, feel free to keep asking questions, or if you have ideas or anything like that about in regards to creating content or things that have been maybe holding you back or curious about in terms of the world of content, let us know. We want to be able to answer those questions here. Nick, Charlie gonna be starting his own weekly, at least once a week, if not twice a week, over on Twitch, doing some other discussion stuff, especially which is awesome because of his experience on the judging side of things.
I'm so
which
hyped.
is very
I love
gonna
Charlie.
be great. So we'll definitely be sure to get him involved with that and go check him out. Charlie, feel free to plug your Twitch in the chat, buddy.
Yes, do it.
Do it up.
Look at it.
Font tier list for the win. Ostin
Oh my God.
or Ositin.
I-
Hey, buddy.
I
Glad to have you
want
here.
to bring Osaten on for Force Will art for an art tier list, or at least like art reviews for some of the best and some of the worst arts in Force Will. I would. Oh,
He's
Osaten,
not
talk
live.
to me after this. Talk
Okay.
to me
Watch
after
it over
this,
and over.
baby.
Okay. So I do want to talk about, in our history of making content, what more in the friends of content creators would have second mold being combos and that can be control. Yeah, I mean, that is one of the things that we're trying to encourage through the course of this video, is wanting more people to get into making content. We try to hit those kinds of elements for you here, but obviously more people the better. And we're glad that you found your way here, Bruce, however you found your way here. Sundial, thank you for the upgrade.
Faculty, baby.
You have graduated from I think before you were a support staff, and so now you have acquired tenure. And welcome to officially being faculty here at Ruler School. See, I'm trying to hit the what are the phrases for when people join, so I can have that branding, #branding everywhere.
#branding, baby.
Even have the Ruler School sticker here on the cube now. So the cube is just permanently Ruler School branded.
It's also on his mobile computer.
It is also on
Not a laptop. Not the laptop. I'm
the
saying
mobile
his
computer.
He moves places.
The entire computer can move places.
Yes.
So I do want to talk about in this last little bit, from your time, what has been your favorite two questions. What has been your favorite Force of Will piece of content that you have watched? And what has been your favorite Force of Will content that you have worked on? Mike.
Ooh.
Your favorite Force of Will content that you have watched, and your favorite Force of Will content that you have worked on.
Ooh. All right. Okay.
Hold on, let me go back. I'm gonna go to our archive. Hold on.
My favorite Force Will content that I've watched. I feel like Ruler School is just kind of
Can you think of a specific video?
Mm.
It doesn't have to be a content creator, like a specific video.
Patrick Kwan's TikTok, because that man made the dumbest TikToks for this game and was so on point with his TikToks. Jeremy, I love you, but you have boomer energy on TikTok.
Oh
and
yeah,
that's totally
intentional big boomer energy on TikTok. Intentional. I am not good at it. I am not good. That's the whole point, is to try to be like as boomery as possible on the TikTok.
I think you need to put that hashtag in so people know it's intentional.
Ugh.
Foul boomer.
Spoiler videos be super nice, and along that the side of explaining interactions with old cards and how they work. Well, we hit both of those here with the Ruler School yearbook, although that project is slowly coming on. Also, our previous deck profile videos from throughout history, we talk about that a lot. And in terms of spoilers, we usually do spoiler discussions here on Monday podcasts. So that's a great place to go there for that too, Bruce. And then, so your favorite Forcible content that you've watched is the TikToks from Patrick. What about your favorite content that you've worked on?
Like, obviously, I've got to give an honorable mention to being on the Ruler School podcast, because this is a dream come true when it comes to being a Forcible player and being able to do this. So I can't go without mentioning this. My favorite thing I've ever been a part of was that stupid haiku video. It was the absolute worst idea I've had in my entire goddamn life. Nothing is worse than that video. I made a tier list on alcohol tolerance for Forcible characters, and the haiku beat it in terms of the dumbest video I've ever made. And I put way too much effort into it. I learned Japanese phrases by heart so I could make that little ending card.
I'm proud of you. Paul, what about you?
Awful.
Wow. Well, I guess like in terms of like the content that I've created, at least for this channel, I really am proud of the yearbook. It is my brainchild. It is my contribution. It's not just, you know, playing the game. It's looking at the game from a different angle, and I think I really do feel very proud of the fact that I get to make that. And I do try and improve it with every video that we make, and there's so much I can do with that. It's
Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. I have to give another honorable mention. Other best favorite YouTube video ever was Matt Seymour's Kiki cover with the 4 full art Kikis in the front of the video. I don't think I've ever been more genuinely impressed with a video in my entire life.
That's very fair.
That's very fair.
That's honestly, thank you. I forgot all about that. Oh my god. Oh my god. In terms of like my favorite, like the stuff that I've seen in the community, what I really liked were the daily mileage videos from Ryan Miles a long time ago. What I really liked about that is that it was it took the game and the stuff that you don't know about it, and it put it into one video. So if you want to get better at Force of Will and you don't have like an hour to listen to like one of our podcasts, like the daily mileage is like 15 minutes. It was so good, and I miss you, Ryan. Can you come back and make content,
he coming back. He coming back.
We're gonna get more daily mileage.
I don't know if we're gonna get more daily mileage. I just know that Ryan Miles himself is coming back. So
honorable mention for me would be Force on Wheels from Ryan Lilly, where he was in his car filming this and talking about Force of Will. Like, that was amazing.
Oh yes, I do remember this.
Force on Wheels, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm in. And I think that, I don't know how many videos there actually were in the end, but it was solid. It's a cool idea.
Also another shout out, real quick, another honorable mention for somebody who's cornered the market on Force Will comic dubs. Login Mode Miscellaneous. I don't know who it is. I've never seen a name attached to them. They kind of came out of nowhere. I don't know who does them, but they're the only FOW dubs, and the production value is great on them. I wish they had, you know, like a larger cast of people doing it with them, because right now it's just their voice covering everyone, including the female voices. So I would love to see, like, I would love to see that become a bigger project, honestly. I love that stuff.
For me...
Do you have a link to that, Mike? Because I don't know about that.
Yeah, I could bring that up to you.
For me, I think my favorite content that I've watched has been the takeover weeks here on the channel. It's been a bit since we've done them.
Ooh, that's a deep cut.
But I really do like the takeover weeks, because I think the reason why I've enjoyed them is because they truly cut to the heart of even kind of what we're talking about tonight. Is this was just us trying. It was us on the channel through the effort of zero effort, being able to showcase other creators and seeing their creativity and what things that they focused on and enjoyed about the game. And to me, I enjoyed watching that because they felt like the purest form of videos for those content creators. Like they were the true representations of who they were as content creators in a video. And so that to me was cool. I felt like I got to not only enjoy the content, but I got to learn so much more and understand those content creators so much better through that process. And maybe we bring
That's
back.
how you and I started talking. Really,
That is indeed how we started talking more consistently.
Do you remember the first video I put out?
I don't, in terms of exactly what it was. It
was the Infinite Liz Patel's assistant.
Oh yes,
Flickr OTK.
Yes, I do remember this.
That was actually the precursor to the Preg OTK.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for establishing me as the guy that said, "All right, these exact things have to happen on turns 1, 2, and 3,
yes.
and then you could win the game as long as your opponent cannot interact with you," which is great.
Yeah. Yep. and I think in terms of favorite projects that I've ever worked on, is a little self-serving because that project isn't out yet. But the project that's coming out later this week, which is the why Magic players are turning to Force of Will video, I got inspired for this project a week and a half ago. Paul will know because Paul can speak to it. It's like I sent him a message on like Monday of last week, maybe Tuesday of last week, and been like, I have this really good idea for this video. I think we should do it. And he was like, yeah, I think we should. It's less than a week later and I'm ready to publish.
Yeah.
It's been for me, it's been a while since I've had a project that has consumed my desire for content production in such a way, like in terms of I have literally been thinking about it pretty much nonstop. And now that I've seen the finished product, I mean, I've got a couple of last edits to do, but it's something that I was with one of the people I was sharing it for private feedback. They talked about how in watching it, it felt like a love letter to FOW. And I think that's the truest way that I can put it together. And so that to me it's a project I've never really done this way before. And to have it be viewed like that is just really exciting. And so it's been really fun to work on, and I can't wait for everybody to see it. It comes out later this week. The title of the video is Magic players are going in on Force of Will. Should you? And we're
clickbait, baby. Let's go.
Very clickbaity, which is very different than what we normally do, but also just like we've never tried to make a video like this before, and I think that we've approached it in a way that still captures the heart of what Ruler School is, and like is very genuine and honest. And I'm very excited to see what comes out of it. I would hearken it to some people have messaged Kaifu, J Ruler, TCG Scrub, Six Sages Gaming, Alexander, yay, and then Negative Legend. In terms of other content creations, that's a story for another day. Negative Legend is a good point because I worked with him on his What Happened to Force of Will video, and to kind of preface what you're kind of coming to expect out of this video this next week is imagine that same kind of idea that maybe he was trying to approach, but without the negative tone that he brought to that video, which is not the tone that we were told as collaborators that it was going to be carrying. when we did the work that we were doing. The final project for that was significantly more downtrodden than we expected. And I told him as such afterwards. But that same... So when you have the opposite approach to that, it comes across as more of a love letter to the game in a positive, uplifting light. And so that's been a very fun project to work on, and I'm excited for people to see it and share it. The hope is that we can try to make it kind of go viral a little bit, hence the clickbaity title. But that video will come out in the next few days, so I hope everyone enjoys that. But even in the middle of the time, in the middle of all that time, the encouragement to everyone is like, just make content. Like, just make it. It's not as hard as it seems. It's incredibly rewarding. But also know that if content creation isn't for you, then that's totally fine. You also help as just being a watcher of content. Inspire other people, help other content creators feel your presence and feel that what they're doing is appreciated. Help them to know that that this isn't Yu-Gi-Oh! This isn't Magic. They're appreciated and respected and seen just for making content for the game regardless. And then they'll continue to grow. We have that responsibility as makers and as watchers. And so whether you're a watcher or a maker, do your part, because it's going to be worth it. Yeah, your favorite bard might be in that video that's coming out later this week. Yeah, so that's...
I heard he's the bardiest.
He's the bardiest bard. The very bardiest.
Bard.
He is the bardiest
This
of bards.
is the brattiest Brad.
Oh, he might be the brightest Brad now.
So, on that note, we are going to close it for tonight. I do want to thank everyone who has participated and watched tonight. I hope you found this informative, especially if you're someone from... wait, it's not amount. I hope this inspired you. If you were thinking into getting into making content, to give it a shot, you can always reach out to us, especially if you want to join our Discord down below. We can answer questions or help out in any way you want. Again, tune in later this week for that wonderful new Magic the Gathering to Force of Will video and help share it out. And if you like what we did tonight and you're not already a member, consider hitting that join button, helping us get to that violet emote. And remember, once we get 100 members, we raffling off that Kiki Nice card, the one of exclusive that will go out into the community to a member. But we have to hit 100 members before we'll do that raffle. So
I just wanna shout out. This came from Fuchsia Art, which did Mike's awesome Kiki match. She's amazing, and so thank you to her for this. And then also Tommy Rourke for helping me to make the card, and then taking my money.
Hooray!
Give me money, Tommy. Give me cool cards, and I will give you my money. He does that consistently, so shout outs to them.
There is a link down below, Gray, for the June webcam GP that has been announced. The pricing, it is in June. It's in 3 and 4 weeks at this point. We will be streaming it. So go ahead and click that link down below. It takes you right to go sign up for it. And the pricing in the 1K in cash and the gold-plated zeros. And all of that jazz. The promos have been updated. Athena is no longer a promo for this one. It's been replaced by Black Moon Ray. And the top 16 promo is now a top 32 promo and is a Don't Cheat instead of Raise and Revive, which both look really good. So go check that out. BRB gonna make 7 accounts and join with all those. Hey man, if that's what you feel like doing, great.
We here at Rule School accept Smurf accounts. Oh, yes, Cal's ready for Saturday. Yes. Cal has the Patreon tournament going on Saturday.
Yes.
Go join that. Go join that right now. Cal does amazing work. When we talk about content creators, Cal does like
the
all
OLS,
the content creation when it comes to the OLS.
Yeah, for sure. Hi, Cesario. Glad to have you here. But that's going to be it for tonight. So until next time, this has been myself, Demo73, and I have been joined, as always, by Mike Rance.
Go join the Patreon tournament for the OLS. Good to have you all here.
And Paul Reisman.
Guess what, guys? Shayla's coming.
Shayla's coming.
Ooh. And until next time, Class dismissed. Have a good night, everybody.
So soon.